I guess I grew up on an older road, a pedal to the metal, always did what I told. Till I found out that my brand new clothes I came secondhand from the rich kids next door. When I grew up fast, I guess I grew up mean. There's 1,000 things inside my head I wish I ain't seen. And now I just wander through a real bad dream, feeling like I'm coming apart at the seam. But thank you, Jack. Oh, no, sir.
Hey guys, how are you today? Sometimes in life, I don't believe in astrology. Is it astrology or astronomy? But when, sometimes the planets align and maybe there's possibility of getting something special because all these circumstances seem to line up. Hopefully I'll catch lightning in a bottle with this one. So Comic Kid 84, one of our YouTube comic book community stalwarts, one of the guys a lot of us watch his content and look up to and follow, posted an interesting question on Instagram yesterday. He's contemplating what to read next. And a couple of books that he mentioned were 100 Bullets and Stray Bullets. And as I kind of try and figure out where do I fit in this community, what special stuff, what magic sauce do I bring to this pot of soup? Sometimes it could be my experience being a lifelong collector. Been doing this for 45 years, collecting 45 years. And sometimes it's maybe I've been exposed to a book or I picked up on a book or something that I think needs more recognition, needs to be spotlighted a little bit more. Maybe I need to show off that kind of thing. So that's kind of what I'm doing this time. Comic Kid 84 mentioned specifically 100 Bullets and Stray Bullets, and I'm a huge fan of both. And as I look out into the community and see other people chatting, I see a fair amount of people talking about Stray Bullets. I'm sorry, 100 Bullets. And if I get this mixed up, forgive me. We're talking about bullets in both titles. We're going to find out that the themes of both books are very similar. So a lot of people have been exposed to 100 Bullets. Stray Bullets, not so much. And it's not the fault of the material so much as maybe the fault of the author. And I'll get into that a little bit. But what I want to do is kind of open up what you might expect in these books without giving away any spoilers, so that if you choose to pick them up and read them, give them a try, maybe what I want to have happen to you is what happened to me when I first read them. So before I start, diving deep, let's see who we've got joining us. We've got Rob Boswell. Thanks for joining me, buddy. We've got Coach Vic 7, my ring man. Rob Boswell says, I have Stray Bullets number 1 through 4. So do you have the floppies, I'm guessing? And the book was also started and stopped quite a few times under a few different miniseries. So the original Stray Bullets came out in 1995, and I'm going to get into that a little bit too as we go. So here are the books we're talking about. Issue 1s. My experiences in reading the floppies, because I bought the floppies as they came out. I have to admit that if you're coming into it late, chances are you're going to be buying the trades, and I think the experience will be better for you to read by the trade rather than reading either of these on a monthly format. What are the commonalities between the two? Both have bullets in the name, obvious. They both generate this overwhelming sense of tension when you read the books. If I'm going to compare both a little bit and I'll do this, get it out of the way. Both authors have seen Pulp Fiction. Both books came out generally in the same era. Like I said, Stray Bullets came out in 95 and 100 Bullets came out in 99. And I believe Pulp Fiction came out in 94, something like that. So it's very clear that Pulp Fiction, the film, influenced these books. We've got Gore Vidal joining the chat. Thank you, Gore. Glad to see you. I think you'll enjoy this. Chances are you've read either one or both titles, knowing what I know about you as far as what you've read or what you're into. Rob Boswell, never even heard of 100 Bullets. Wow. Okay. So I'm going to, another thing I want to say kind of right off the bat, Stray Bullets for me is a little bit fresher on my mind because I've recently just started rereading it from the beginning, and I have not read 100 Bullets in some time. So some of the information I'm sharing, I'll admit I had to go back and look up a few things, but overall, I want to give you kind of my gut reaction to them. Like I said, not get into many of the gory details, but let's start with Stray Bullets. So I said Stray Bullets started in 95, and as I alluded to earlier, a lot of people haven't heard of the book, and that I laid that at the fault of David Lapham, the author and the writer and artist. He's the driving force behind this book. And when I say that, it's because he's had a few starts and stops with this book. The original Stray Bullets run went from 95 until, I've got some notes here, issue 1 came out in 95, and it was about a bi-monthly schedule, and the 41st issue came out in 2005. So it took him 10 years to get about 40 issues out. And when he did it, he kind of left it on a bit of a cliffhanger. He had one more issue due to come out, issue 41. So issue 40 came out in 2005. Issue 41 came out in March 2014. So that's 9 years. Now, it's not that he abandoned comics altogether. I'm not sure if he does anything outside of comic books, but he did do a run on Detective Comics during that time. He did, I believe, a 12-issue writing stint on Detective. He also did a miniseries called Murder Me Dead, and just a few years ago, he did another series, I believe, for Dark Horse called The Lodger, which I have not read. He did a run for Vertigo called Young Liars, it had an interesting concept. I didn't love it as much as Stray Bullets. I have to say, in both cases, Stray Bullets and 100 Bullets, as far as the writers go, I've wanted to like more of their work than just this, and I always compare these two works to their other works they do, and always find that whatever else they do compares or fails in comparison. Okay, so Rob Boswell. I also have Sunshine and Roses 41. Okay, yeah, so Sunshine and Roses is one of the later stories, and I'll get into that a little bit. So yeah, I'm gonna get into it right now. So issue 41 of Stray Bullets, 9-year gap, issue 41 comes out. The same month, Stray Bullets Killers comes out. Let's see if I've got that one handy. I'm sure I do. I've got them all right here. So that issue comes out the same month as the end of the run on Stray Bullets. And the Killers lasts, it looks like 9 issues for the Killers run. And then he started with Stray Bullets, Sunshine and Roses. So I want to say all this up front and make it clear that if you look them up on eBay, if you look up Stray Bullets #1, chances are you're going to find listings for both of these as well as the first issue, very first issue. So okay, I'm trying to find a way to describe the whole thing without comparing, without saying. It's kind of like Pulp Fiction. The stories that he tells, each issue is self-contained in that you can pick up any issue, read it. You're going to have a clear beginning, middle, and end. You're going to be able to understand a bit of the story within the context of an issue. And I think that's one of the masterful things about this. He does runs where he'll do, especially at the beginning, I believe the first 6 to 10 issues were individual stories about different characters. And so it's a bit of a, I don't want to say a jumbled mess. It's stories similar in theme and emotion that aren't related together to each other. But David Lapham promises everything is connected. Stay around long enough, you'll see things overlap and converge at some point. And I've got to say, we're at almost 100 issues in, and through all the different series, and I'm starting to see, yeah, I can see how things fit together. Let's see. Coach Vic, I'm just plain clueless. That's why I'm here, buddy. That's why I'm here. Okay. Gore Vidal says the Killer's Arc is one of his favorites. Yeah, I read it new off the stands, and I'm looking forward to rereading it to get a refresher on it. So let's see here. So I'd say that the stories they're not told altogether chronologically, but in most cases, he puts a date on the front page of when the book occurs. It is a period piece that rolls from the 70s into the 90s. And I believe if I were to open up the first page, I believe the first story is dated 1998, which would be 3 years into the future versus David Lapham sitting there writing this first issue. And they have not looped around at this point. They've featured some of the characters in this as younger versions of them, but they haven't gotten back to why this issue happened or what led up to the events in that one. Stray Bullets is kind of a big puzzle. So if you are into that kind of thing, that's the book for you. If you want to be given bits and pieces that allow you to kind of try and form in your mind how all this is going together, and then keep reading to find out if what you think is happening, that's the book for you. If you like individual stories, like I said, some of the one-off stories in this are just outstanding single standalone comic book stories. But if you have to have everything lined up, this happens, Hollywood ending, Stray Bullets is not your book. Gore Vidal is right on point. It's episodic. It fluctuates in time beginning in the late 70s through the 80s, jumping back and forth. But it's not confusing. True. Yeah, just they kind of stick a toe into the 90s. Let's see where we're at. So we've got kind of a cast of characters that we follow. There are some characters that they'll pop up for an issue. We never see them again. Maybe we'll see them again in the future. There are a lot of side roads. So if you're into like video gaming, like side adventures, you'll find those in Stray Bullets. And whether or not those side adventures are more tied into the main plot storyline, you'll either see it or you won't, or you have to kind of wait around and maybe it will come back around in the future. Let's see. The characters. So I'm going to share a screen. That's not the one I wanted to share. Sorry. Where did I want to go? Yes, it was. I shouldn't have just closed that. Dang it. Oh, where am I at? Okay, here we go. All right. So this is a kind of a snapshot of the somewhat main characters that we follow mostly through the book. This is not a comprehensive look at all the characters involved. We'll go from left to right. To the left, we've got Rosie, the younger gentleman standing next to him. I have to admit, slips my mind what his name is. But behind him is Spanish Scott, and then Monster is the unassuming gentleman in the glasses. Both of them are kind of the hitman heavies of the book. In front of them, we find Orson, and then the shorter young lady in front is Virginia Applejack, a very interesting name. The girl to the right of Orson is Beth, which is his girlfriend. Behind her is a big lunkhead named Nick, and then the kid on the end is named Joey. And then down front and center is Amy Racecar. Now, one of the interesting things that happens in Stray Bullets is you'll get hard-hitting, street-level crime comics. It's mostly what you get issue in and issue out. Pardon me. So to kind of maybe settle your stomach a little bit between all the hard-hitting action as the book goes along, every so often an issue will land that features Amy Racecar. Amy Racecar is a over-the-top-ish, almost cartoonish character, you could say. If you've read it, you know what I mean. She is a total badass. She's the hero. Nothing will ever defeat Amy Racecar, literally. So one of the puzzles that you kind of have to figure out is how do the Amy Racecar stories fit in to the larger overall Stray Bullets pantheon. And I've got my ideas. They drop subtle clues here and there. And if you read it and pay attention, you'll figure it out. Let's see. You'll find that the characters are... Okay, so I'll reference another independent comic book, Strangers in Paradise, which I think even a wider audience has read Strangers in Paradise. There are two kinds of comic book readers. There are those that love Strangers in Paradise and those that have not read Strangers in Paradise. So one of the interesting things, the great qualities about that book is the way it builds the characters and how the characters, black line art on white paper, become living characters that once you've read through the whole run and it's over, you feel like you're saying goodbye to friends. That's what Strangers in Paradise is. Stray Bullets comes close to that as far as its character development, the way the characters do become kind of living, breathing organisms. And yeah, I just can't say enough about how distinctive they are in personality, in look. One of the things about the art you'll find is that nobody ever stands still. The Stray Bullets is, I've never done a page count. I'm assuming it's 24 pages plus 2 to 4 pages of back matter, which is sometimes letters page, sometimes ads. And in some issues, he just does away with those and uses the pages, including front and back covers, to tell the story. The pages are an 8-panel grid always. There aren't panels without backgrounds. The backgrounds are almost they're impeccable. Every detail is there. let's see here. There you go. Worth comparing Kachu with Beth in Virginia. Yep, the Lapham's like Taryn Moore writes some of the best women in comics, indeed. So the art is, like I said, it's an 8-panel grid, which you would think is uninteresting, but it actually it becomes, I won't say documentarian, but it becomes storyboardish. So what I think a lot of people that read certain comics wish they would become a movie, and the artists and writers behind them hope they never become a movie. This is one of those where we as the reader are reading what we in our minds forms a motion picture level of storytelling, and the creators do not want to give up their creative freedom and have their work soiled by someone else. The art is very consistently drawn. It has a bit of an independent feel, a la the Hernandez brothers, Jaime and what's the other Hernandez brother? Gore Vidal, no, and his blanking. I'm blanking on it. Gilbert Hernandez. It's very similar, I think, in feel to theirs, where it's got very few hard blacks. It's almost all line art. So even though this is a really gritty story, the artwork is always pretty bright. Like I said, tons of detail, full backgrounds. Some of the, okay, so both Stray Bullets and 100 Bullets are very hard hitting in the way they tell the stories, the stories they tell, and the subject matter they cover. So if you are opposed to seeing sexuality in comics, if you're opposed to seeing drug usage or dependence, this you probably want to stay away from it. Comic Head 84, hey man, thanks for joining us. But I want to say it's never gratuitous. We don't see a whole lot of nudity. We see bits here and there. And I would say it's done in a very, what I would consider a almost, how would you say, a Hitchcockian way, where the same mastery that Hitchcock used in the murder scene in Psycho, the way that was done, where he was showing just enough information for you to finish the gory stuff in your mind to make you think you were seeing more than you were. That's done masterfully in Stray Bullets. So if you are looking for a comic with very polished artwork and that's something you can't get over, you might struggle with this until you start reading it. I am that kind of person. I'm that kind of reader where if it doesn't matter how awesome a story is, if the art is banal, I have a hard time really getting into it, really soaking it in. But this, I think it's more than the style of the drawing. It is the storytelling that holds up this book, Stray Bullets. The art serves the story in a way that nearly no other comic book does. You probably have to look at the Hernandez brothers or Terry Moore's work to find a similarity there, where unlike what I'll talk about in 100 Bullets artwork, there aren't many panels you're going to get hung up on in Stray Bullets where you're going to sit there and want to just stare at it and like soak it in. Eduardo Rizzo, he does that in 100 Bullets. So that's going to be one of the contrasts. So, and I compare it to Love and Rockets in that I know what Love and Rockets looks like. I have to admit I've never read Love and Rockets. I've got one of the early original Fantagraphics trades, and I've always wanted to get into it, and I've just never taken the leap. So I'm just as guilty as anyone else of ignoring what I hear is great and concentrating on my own kind of alley. So that kind of sums up Stray Bullets. I got it right. Okay, now let's talk about 100 bullets. Okay, so one of the similarities between the books, besides bullets and the kind of the themes and the fact that it's kind of crime comics, is that this book also has a lot of storylines going on where the storylines at the beginning might seem disparate, where we get a 3 to 5 issue story arc with one set of characters. Then we jump to another set of characters and we have some one-off issues tossed in there along the way. It might not seem to tie together, but once you get rolling into it in a much quicker way than Stray Bullets does, 100 Bullets has connective tissue where you will pretty quickly start to understand how all these stories are going to connect. Yep. So Gore Vidal's dropping some hints to Comic Kid 84 in the chat. So the elevator pitch on 100 Bullets, the thing that sold me on it was, this book is about a guy shows up on your doorstep. He's got a briefcase. In this briefcase is a dossier on the person that ruined your life, a gun, and 100 untraceable bullets. So it's basically, here's a briefcase full of your revenge. What will you do with it? Will you follow through and take out that guy that ruined your life, put you in prison, killed someone you love, destroyed your life? It's that kind of that level of severity. Okay, something like that where bullets are untraceable, certain amount of value in that. There's a lot of crimes that can be committed. Do you want to sell it? What are you going to do with it? So that's the elevator pitch. But once you get into it, once they get their meat hooks into you with that, you'll start to see there's a larger picture that develops. Excuse me. Sorry about that. Spent most of the day out with family, out doing a nature hike today. So, I'm a little bit worn out and a little bit probably dehydrated, but I want to get through this. If my voice will hang in there with me. Even my hair's a mess. I didn't comb my hair before I started. Okay, here we go. Let's make it work. So, yeah. So as 100 Bullets goes, you'll start to see how all these stories start to connect. Characters in both series will be dropped in on you as you go, and it might be several issues in, and they're dropping somebody in, and then you're like, "Who's this guy?" And you're not gonna know, and you're gonna go through another couple storylines maybe before that guy comes back around, and you're like, "Oh, I get it. I see where he's coming from." 100 Bullets is a little bit more straightforward in that there's not a lot of jumping back and forth time-wise. There are some flashbacks as part of some of the stories, but it's a little bit more linear than what you're going to find in Stray Bullets. The art is, I love it. Eduardo Rizzo, Brian Azzarello. Let me not forget to mention him. Brian Azzarello is the artist or the writer. Eduardo Rizzo is the artist, and Rizzo's use of blacks, unlike Stray Bullets, where everything's white with black lines, and that's about it. In 100 Bullets, you get lots of blacks and whites, a lot of stuff in shadow, very dynamic page layouts versus the 8-panel grid in Stray Bullets. They're just luscious pages that, like I said, you'll want to sit there and study them for a little bit. Now, depending on how much you kind of dissect your look at comics and how much you pay attention to how comics work and the way that Scott McCloud explains in Understanding Comics, how comic books have a way of controlling the speed or tempo at which you absorb the story. Comic books are very distinctive in how they're able to do that in ways that literature can't or movies can't. I think both books take advantage of playing with those mechanics to make them masterful pieces. Yeah, so that, like I said, 84 wasn't here at the beginning where I said that. So I'm much fresher on Stray Bullets because I'm rereading it right now. It's been a while since I've read 100 Bullets. I do want to touch real quick on some of the characters, though. So let's take a look at those. And I'm not going to go through an exhaustive look at these characters because there are so many. But if you want more information, I found this on Comic Vine. So if you do want more spoilers, feel free. But Agent Graves he's the guy that drops off the briefcase to you. Lano is one of the best heavies in any media that I've ever consumed. He does some pretty despicable stuff. He's a total badass. But the thing about 100 Bullets is that he's not the only badass in the book. DZ Cordova is the first character we're introduced to. She's in the first storyline. Cole Burns is one of the main characters. Mr. Shepard is really one of the bigger, more important characters in the book. Loop we follow him through a few storylines that are great. Augustus Medici and Megan Dietrich and Benito Medici are in this kind of a mafia-esque kind of family dynamic there. Wiley Times is one of the bigger characters. And then Milo Garrett, kind of the unknown soldier looking guy, his story is pretty awesome as well. So, I mean, this goes on and on and on. And like I said, I want this to be as spoiler-free as possible. So I don't want to dwell on the characters and give too much away. I want you to have the joy of getting to know them as they're presented in the source material. So that pretty much sums it up. I hope I've done a decent enough job of giving you an idea of what to expect. Like I said, if you need a little bit more linear storyline, 100 Bullets is for you. If you want better, more polished imagery, 100 Bullets is probably for you. If you don't like all of the details given to you, you don't need everything spoon-fed to you. It's been a long day. Stray Bullets is probably the better bet. As far as the kind of the emotional attachment, I think you get more of that in Stray Bullets than you do 100 Bullets, but there are a few gut punches in 100 Bullets along the way. Much in the way of Game of Thrones, in 100 Bullets, don't fall in love with characters. In Stray Bullets, if you fall in love with the character and they die, you'll probably see him again, because it is a lot like Pulp Fiction in that way. Yeah, I think that's about it. I'll give the chat just a few minutes if you've got any questions, anything I can shed more light on for you. Fire some questions at me, and I'll give just short time to kind of answer what I can without, like I said, spoiling too much. I think one of the interesting contrasts is the difference in the covers. Dave Johnson does the covers to 100 Bullets, and you really see a nice evolution of his work along the way. I mean, I think these covers are great, but they're not nearly as polished or as designy whiny as I like to call them as they go. I mean, for each storyline, he kind of gives a different motif to the art. There's a cool Steranko throwback. It's kind of cool. Let's see here. There's a 3-issue storyline with that kind of cool line art in addition to the fleshed out character art. It's kind of cool. The Counter Fifth Directive storyline is one of my favorites. One of the early really good storylines. That's another thing to mention. Okay, so in Stray Bullets, if you give Stray Bullets 3 issues, you're either going to hate it or you're going to be hooked. With 100 Bullets, I don't think that the first storyline, at least for me, it wasn't the best. I continued through it. It wasn't bad, but I found maybe the second or third storyline was maybe better. John's Comics Kids is a big 100 Bullets fan. White Whale doesn't talk about it much, but he's a big fan of both. And I believe I've heard him say he's got a 9.8 of Stray Bullets 1, which is pretty tough to get because it's another one of those independent comics where the first printing had like 3,000 issues published. John Kid 84 says, I think Stray Bullets is up next on my reading list. 100 Bullets has a really interesting premise, though. Yeah. Let's see. I thought that cover is really cool. And then vice versa, another interesting thing about Stray Bullets is he always just does this big Stray Bullets header, and then the bottom kind of third of the page is the only imagery you get, the only clue as to what's in the book. One of the things that kind of led me to doing this is along with Comic Kid 84 mentioning these 2 books specifically. Comic Book Kayfabe recently did a review where they went through the first trade worth of Stray Bullets page by page. So if you do want to see a more kind of in-depth analysis of the actual material, they do a masterful job of going over it. Yeah, I mean, what's going on in that issue? I don't know. That's the next one on my pile to read. I mean, I get an idea, but I have to reread it to get a refresher. So 84, one thing I mentioned earlier, Stray Bullets has had several reboots, so make sure you're starting with the regular Stray Bullets 1 and not Stray Bullets Killers #1 or Sunshine and Roses #1. It's like I said, both these books are better consumed, I think is the best word to say, in trade form. And they, as with all comics, over the years they've done them in different formats. I believe Stray Bullets does like maybe a 2 or 3 issue or 2 or 3 storylines combined in one hardback these days. I'm not sure if they've kept their original trade paperbacks of each storyline in print. Stray Bullets does it both ways, where he does his storylines, I believe, are still in print, trade paperback wise, or the original 41 issues are available in an Uber Alles hardcover that connects the entirety of the first series. So yeah, I think that's going to wrap it up. I don't see any pressing questions. Anybody can, if you do come across some questions, want to know more, want to know something specific, want me to give you spoilers, contact me on Instagram under the J Hood Creative. Look me up. It's like the same name there. or leave me a comment on this video. And hey, if you like this, this is kind of some of the stuff I really plan to do when I said I'm going to get into doing the YouTube game. So hopefully more inspiration will strike, and I'll do more real straightforward videos like this. So if you like it, give me a thumbs up. Let other people know. Send them my way. Have them come and check out this video. If you've heard somebody mention stray bullets or 100 bullets, and they want to know more, have them come here, and I'll share the knowledge. So just double checked. Yeah, I did. Yep. And that's a fact that I keep forgetting to. But yeah, read those first 4. If you like them, you're gonna like the rest. If you don't, sorry. Go to 100 bullets. But yeah, it's like I said, it gets a little hardcore in some spots. It gets pretty dark. But yeah, there you go. All right. So remember, on the J Hood Creative channel, we always remind you, keep your priorities straight. Remember faith, family, comic books. We'll see you next time. Bye, guys.